Hi guys, my name is Abdullah Abu-Mahfouz, and today I'm going to show you how to create a dead-end eye effect. And let's see how that looks like first. So I just completed this shot. And here we have Ed, and we're going to play this. See, this eye effect is what we're going for. So to summarize it up real quick, it involves quite a few steps. It involves tracking Ed's eye, then adding in the eye, then adding some lighting to the scene, adding a lens flare, and then animating the eye. We're going to go over those 5 parts right now. If you're watching this, you're most likely part of the visual effects team, or you're watching a tutorial that I've posted at a later date. Alright, so let's get started. Now I can see that I'm assigned to this shot number 67. And let's go to this download folder to take a look at it real quick. So let's look at this VFX breakdown. So what we're going to be doing here for this shot is Ed's eyes, they're damaged and blue. Narrow open, that's probably referring to the eye size. Continuous rotation to wide open during the whole shot. So sounds like we want a kind of narrow eye, or the eye dilating from close to open and it's rotating. Easy. So we want to download the contents of this folder. Just to clean up, I'm first going to get rid of this .ds store file. It's junk. You don't have to do that. Don't worry about that. What we want is just these 2 things. So we're going to go up here. We're going to click download. And it's basically going to download here. That's what download means after all. And while that's zipping and while we're waiting for the download, let's go ahead and grab some of our assets. Now, if we go to the project orientation sheet, we have our VFX assets link here. I'm going to click on that. Now for this, we're mostly going to need an eye. And let's get both the blue eye and the red eye, just in case. So we're going to click this. We're going to select download. And we're going to click the red eye. And we're going to select download. Alrighty. Now we're going to have our assets. Looks like our file just finally opened or downloaded. I'm going to show it in the Finder. And let's go ahead and unzip it here in the downloads folder. So shot 67. I'm going to just work off my desktop for now. But you may want to work off a portable drive. So if your computer crashes and dies, your work isn't lost. And we're also going to back up this project at the end of our work here. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to drag our eyes into that folder as well. I'm going to open the folder. And let's organize it a little bit. Let's create a new folder here called Assets. This is where we're going to put all of our extra assets for the project. Alrighty then. Looks like we're ready to start a new project. We have After Effects open, and we're going to File, Save As. We're going to find our shot 67. I'm just going to call it 67. Whoa, what is that? I'm just going to call it 67 AE for After Effects. Hit enter. I'm going to hit save. Okay. So I'm going to import all my stuffs. So I'm going to import the assets, the movie, and even the breakdown if I want to look at it in the program. Great. I just want to hit save real quick, and I'm going to make an asset from this composition. So there's many ways to do this. You can drag it out here, or I like to drag it down here to new comp. Create a new composition. All right, so we have our shot.
There was no telling.
I'm just going to turn off the sound here so we don't get annoyed by it. All right. So 1 second long shot. not going to be too much of a problem. The first thing we're going to do is track Ed's eye. But first, we want to create another layer of this, which is going to be, so that's just Command D I hit. So we have two of this layer. The first one's going to be just this cap of his eye, and the second one's going to be everything else. So we're going to hit this layer, and we're going to go to Animation, Track in Mocha AE. Now Mocha's opening. I don't know why this thing comes up every time. But 67, make sure it's going to save in that desktop folder. Sounds good. And I'm going to click OK. All right. So we're basically going to take this Bezier layer tool, and we're just going to draw. Let's zoom in here. That's holding the Z on your keyboard. And I'm just going to hit 4 points right here real quick around the eye. And then I'm going to adjust to make sure we get the whole eye here. And guys, I'm not a pro at After Effects. I literally learned this effect, or rather created it, very like jerry-rigged style. I'm usually just a writer-director, so this is new for me. So please forgive me if I'm still figuring stuff out, or if you find a better way to do it, let me know. So the reflections in here are going to make the tracking pretty hard. So if for your shot you're unable to track through Mocha, there's other ways to do it in After Effects, and if that fails, there's always hand-by-hand animation, which is what we want to avoid. But this doesn't look like it'll be too hard. We're going to start tracking. Let's make sure perspective is on in the motion tab. And we're going to hit track forwards. So this is Mocha tracking our shot. Now you see how this kind of strayed? If at any point things go wonky, you're going to go to that point in the shot, like right here. I'm just going to readjust these keyframes, and I'm going to track again, this time 1 frame at a time, to make sure it gets it right. Looks like it's doing a better job. I still want to do a little adjustment here, and let's see about that. And it looks like we may be all set. All right, great. So we have the whole shot tracked. You're going to save that, Command S. So we're actually going to first press Export Shape Data. We're just going to hit Copy to Clipboard. Then we're going to go back into After Effects. So we have our data copied. You just want to hit this top layer and hit Command V. Let's paste, and if you can see, we turned this bottom layer off. Let's actually lock it. If you turn the bottom layer off, the only thing in this frame are Ed's glasses right here. And let's go back to our view. So that's what we want. And just for organization, I'm going to name this eye cap. And that'll do us some good. So I'm going to lock that layer. Well, actually, before I lock it, I'm going to go ahead and set some of the options. I'm going to take the opacity. I'm going to set it down to about 11 or 15. And I can always readjust that later. But I'm going to lock it for now, and it's time to put in our eye. So we're going to go to our assets. We're going to find the blue eye. We're going to drag that down underneath the eye cap. We're going to turn this layer back on here. Okay, so this is extremely important part. You want to hit, where are we going? Transform, center, anchor, point, and layer content. So that's going to be really important later so that the rotation and scale don't go screwed up. So we're going to have to somehow get this eye onto Dead's eye, or Dead Ed's eye, or he's just Ed. So we're going to create a null object to keep all our tracking data on. And we're actually going to make variations of this tracking data. So we're going to go to Layer, New, Null Object. So I'm going to actually name this Null 1 or Null eye track. And I'm going to duplicate that and say Null eye track, no scale, no rotation. Just to get organized a little bit, and you'll see what that will be about in a second. So we're going to go back to Mocha. We're going to export tracking data this time. And we're going to select this bottom option, position, scale, and rotation. We're going to copy this to the clipboard, and we're going to go back into After Effects. So back into After Effects, we want to hit the null eye track. We just hit Command V, paste. And if you can see this null over here on the right, that the tracking data is set throughout the clip. So that's good. Actually, let's go back a step. Don't want to do that yet. Forgot another important step. What we did with the center anchor point on the eye, we want to do the same thing. So I just shift-clicked, selected these, transform, center anchor point, and layer content. And you see the anchor point is now centered. That's very important. So then we're going to just redo that step, Command V, onto the eye track. Now we want to go, it's okay to lock this now. Now we want to go to the no rotation. We want to just hit Command V, paste. And this time for this, we're going to go into the scale and rotation. We're actually going to turn them off here. Don't want to turn off position, just scale and rotation. Make sure position's still enabled. So you can close that and you can lock that. Okay, so now we're ready to go back into our eye and do some work. The first thing I want to do is position the eye into a place I want. So I'm just going to go here. I'm going to also scale it down, transform it down to a good spot. And I'm actually going to look at a previous shot to make sure the proportions are going to be the same. So if we look here, there's some, perhaps our eye we're putting in is half the size of the cap. And it changes size, so it's not too important. But this looks about right. Let's zoom out just to check. Cool. And again, no problem. We can always fix it later. Now to include the tracking data on here. So I just put my nulls all the way to the bottom to kind of get out of the way. So I'm going to pick whip this to just the eye track, our first null. And if we play it, you can see that it follows the movement. Now we get this flickering here. I don't know why. Because I'm a noob, but we'll just live with it for now. We'll actually probably cover that part up with some blinking later in the animation. Okay, so our eye is tracked. I kind of want to do one more thing just to make sure I did everything right. I'm going to take the scale here. I'm going to scale up and down and make sure that thing is still centered, and it is. Because if the anchor point's off, it's going to scale somewhere really crazy. And also I'm going to make sure the rotation is fine. And that's rotating just fine on its center point. Last time I did this, these two things were off and it really messed up my shot. So I just undid all those changes and I'll be good to go there. The next thing I want to do is add some effects to this eye. So I'm going to go to Effect. I want to go to, where do I want to go? I want to go to Stylize, and I want to add a glow. And this is generally a good setting that I like. Just the default intensity 1, glow radius 10. Actually, I want to change this to a higher radius. not that high. Just something that kind of gives it a little pop. And there we go. If you can see that, got a little pop there. Now, this shot is actually darker than, than here. So we don't want it. Later, we're going to color correct these during the color correction process, but that's not now. So I don't want to match these two shots exactly, because if you can see here, let me minimize these. If you can see here, Ed is darker in this shot than here. And I want to look at the wall really. And I want to match the exposure of this eye to what's already in the scene, not what is here in this shot, because they're different exposures. But we'll take care of that probably at the end after we add in all our lighting. Now, we have a problem here. If you can zoom in real close, you kind of see that the resolution of our eye is a little bit better than the resolution of the rest of Ed. So we're actually going to add another effect to fix that, which is the blur. So we'll go to blur sharpen, and the only effect I know here is fast box blur. So I'm going to use that, stick with what I know. We're just going to blur this just a little bit to kind of fit in with the rest of Ed. And we're going to zoom out. Whoops. And we're going to zoom out. Make sure that looks okay. And I think it can be blurred just a little bit more. So blur radius, maybe 33. It all depends on what's in the contents of the shot. And that looks pretty cool. All right. So we got our blur. We got our sharpen set. For now, we're just going to lock this. So the next thing we want to do is add some lighting to the scene, because that looks like a pretty strong light inside Ed's mask, and we want it to bleed into the scene. So we're going to go for add a new layer, add a new adjustment layer. I'm going to put this under the eye cap, and we're going to do some color correction to add that light. So effects, we're going to go to color balance. And what I found works well is if we take all the blues, so the blue shadow, we set it to 40. Then we go to the midtones, we also set that to 40. Then we go to the highlight and we set it to 40. I found that these values work very nice. Then we're going to take the Eclipse tool up here. I think the default is a rectangle tool, but if you click and hold down, you can get to the Eclipse tool. And I'm just going to draw a little mask onto where I think the lighting is probably going to be. This looks about right. Then I'm going to go to this layer. I'm going to hit MM to get my mask feathering options. I'm going to feather that guy out just a bit. And if you can see here, that looks pretty good. So this adjustment layer is actually not moving. It looks nice now, but we want it to be moving with Ed's head, or the camera in this case. Luckily, there's not enough motion in this shot. So I'm actually going to pick whip this to the no rotation. And if you can see here, the mask is moving with the head. All right, so we're actually going to add another lighting effect, because right now we just changed the color balance, but we didn't really change exposure wise. When you have a light, it's going to, add more light to the scene. We just changed the color. So we're going to go to effect. We're going to go to color correction. Then we're going to go to brightness and contrast. Or even better, exposure. So I'm just going to add a little light. Not too much though. Actually want to go back to this mask and feather it out a little more to bleed on the rest of the scene, and that looks pretty nice. Looks like that light is actually getting some good effect. Now, I also did something I probably shouldn't have. So I want to go back to this adjustment layer, and you remember the anchor point whole deal? So if we go here, and we're going to do this later. So if you press S. Here we want to scale. God, come on. I'm not very good with my shortcuts. Okay, so S, and you see how scaling will change it there? So that's not what I want. So I'm going to try to fix that. And for every layer, you want to make sure that the anchor point is in the center. So I'm just going to right click that layer, go to transform, center anchor point. And as you can see now, whoops, anchor point is now in the center of the layer. I'm just going to move that anchor point right here. You can see it to the center of the eye. And now when we do the scale, it's going to go right in there. And actually, lucky we did this, because I do see a problem here. You see how there's this hard line on this layer. So I'm actually going to draw a mask. Right on this layer, another mask. And we're going to go here on the edge. All right. And we want to go on the second mask. Instead of add, we want to have subtract. And we want to feather that. So that hard line isn't there anymore. And it looks like we need to do it just a little bit more. And actually, I went the wrong way with the feather. Alrighty there. I think we have it really nice. So I'm going to zoom out, and I'm just going to set the scale back. Just going to reset it. So let's right click, reset. Cool. Alright, so we got that fixed. So that's it for our light. We're going to lock that now that we're done with it. Now we're going to add our lens flare. Now with a shot where it's not so bright and he's not looking at the camera, there would be no need for lens flare, because lens flare naturally happens when light enters the lens. But in this case, it is. So we're going to add one. So we're going to create a new layer here. Layer, new, solid. We're going to create a black solid, sure. And we're going to put this underneath the lens cap. And we're going to go to Effect. And we're going to go to Generate, wherever that is. And we're just going to use Adobe's default lens flare. Now there's way better plugins and stuff, but since I'm poor, I don't have that kind of stuff. I'm just going to work with what I have. And look, we got a black screen. How do we get rid of that? We're going to go to we're going to go to blending mode, and we're just going to hit screen here to take away that black. All right. Now we want to set the anchor point this time around actually to the eye. That way, when we rotate, it's going to rotate off that point. Very cool. So I'm going to click Command Z to undo that nonsense. And we're going to hit the flare center also to the eye. Now, that's crazy looking, isn't it? So we're going to actually switch to the 105 prime. I like that look for some reason. We're also going to copy the color from the lighting here. So See the color balance effect? We're gonna Command C, and we're gonna copy it on our black solid, and there we got the colored flare, and that's still looking crazy, isn't it? Oh, I see what's going on. Well, I might like it crazy for now so I can see if it's being tracked or not. So I'm going to pick whip this to no rotation. I'm going to see if the track is going to stay, and it is. The layer's maintaining. And just like the lighting layer we did, you can see here that it's not like a full raster and it's cutting off. So we may be able to fix that in a little bit here, but let's first chill the hell out with this light. So let's go to blend with original, and let's try 50%, and let's bring the brightness down because it's not supposed to be that bright. And there we go, we're at 50, and let's just see how that looks. Very nice. And I like the way that looks. Let me see if it matches up with the previous. Make sure we got nothing crazy going on. So this is actually a plugin I used earlier to get this line. I'm not going to use it in this shot since I already used it, but I just want to look at the exposure of the eye. It looks like we can only see a little white dot, and we kind of get that here as well. I will actually tone down the glow on our eye just a little bit. It's probably 0.5, so we can see more of that detail. There we go. Alrighty then. Sorry for that, I was just admiring our work. Alright, so now we got our flare, our lighting, scene lighting, then we got our eye light. We want to now animate what we have. So I'm actually going to look to the scene to kind of fit into this acting role I'm going to play in here as well at the moment. So we're going to go to, wow, man, these people behind me are really loud. We're going to go to the scene. We're going to watch it. And that was on the VFX project orientation sheet. And this shot is right here. So in the movie, he's talking about how Ed is kind of going crazy. And that's what we have him doing at this point. So this is the shot that we're working with. He's getting nervous there. So let's make Ed act in a way to get Con nervous. So again, I'm not a pro at After Effects. I'm just kind of doing whatever works for me. I'm going to unlock my layers now. If you find a better way to do this, just please let me know. And we're going to get to some animating. Alright, so in the previous shots, I have him blinking like nuts. Because he's starting to go crazy, right? So I'm going to try to imitate that blinking here. But first, I want to focus on the positioning. So I'm going to select all these layers. I'm going to hit P to bring up the positions. Now I'm going to keyframe, right? And see, he's looking at Con here. So I'm actually going to dart his eye back to Con. And I only did it one frame in between because eye movement is pretty freaking fast. So it's looking at Con, Pretty scary. They look at each other for a second. And now I'm going to copy these three keyframes. Woo! It's not good. And paste them here. Excuse me. Copy, paste, so we get the same stuff. And copy, paste. Copy, paste. So I did that just to have this same keyframe, the same data for this keyframe here. Right, and now I'm gonna move. I'm gonna try to select all three of these guys again. And he's gonna look away here. I'm gonna zoom in to kind of get this right. And I'm gonna have him look up at the water. So how that looks, let's see it. Oh, I'm trying to zoom out because my scrolling doesn't work. I think I'm gonna add him looking back at Khan one more time. So again, I'm gonna copy this data and paste it here. Keep hitting Command B. I'm not used to this keyboard. Command C, Command V, Command C, Command V. Right, and I'm gonna move all this stuff. Remember to select all of them. Zoom in. Move all this stuff to look at Khan one more time. And I'll have the eye move around just a little bit. Again, I want it darty, so the keyframes I have next to each other are going to be nice. And let's see how that looks. And it's going to need some playing around until you get the right performance. All right, that looks pretty nuts to me. So we're going to move on from the positioning of the eye now to the blinking. So I figured out for Ed that blinking, you kind of want it to be like a camera opening and closing because he is a robot after all. So I found that the scale feature works the best, right? And let's go ahead and select all these three and hit S. And we can see that the scales are at different values. These three elements we're trying to animate. So I'm actually just going to scale the eye to not mess with these values. And then for the other two, I'm going to mess with the opacity. That way nothing gets ruined in the process. So I'm going to go to the eye. Right. And for the scale, I'm going to remember that it's going to be at 6 throughout the entirety of the shot as of now. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this value. And I'm going to hit a keyframe. I'm going to have him blink. So when he looks at Khan, that'd be funny to have him blink about right here before he looks away. So I'm going to copy this keyframe, paste it, then come here. I'm going to hit the scale to 0. Actually, move this keyframe away from it a little bit so that we have some kind of animating room. See how it closes like that? And then I want it to open back up. And I'm just going to paste the keyframe that I had saved. See, that's a blank. Right there, it looks pretty cool, right? And I'm just going to take these three, since we already have kind of an animation here, I'm going to paste them wherever I want him to blink again. So I kind of want him to blink twice here. Let's see how that looks. Now I want to blink one more time here. Maybe I'll move these a little bit back in the timeline. Have him blink a little bit earlier. That looks pretty creepy to me. I like that. Okay, so just like how we animated the blink on the eye, we want to animate that on the lighting that we have. So instead of scale, I'm going to work with opacity here. And I select both of these. I'm going to hit the keyframes to let it know we want to animate. And I'm just going to go hit it to 100 here. I'm going to hit it to 0. And then 100. And I'm lining it up with the scale keyframes that I have. I'm just going to select this, right? And I'm going to paste it just like I did last time. And I'm going to do that for each layer. So I'm going to copy on the lighting layer now and then paste these keyframes. And you should have the lighting and the blinking happening at the same time. Very nice. Okay, so remember how in the shot it said we wanted it going from closed to open? So now would be the time to kind of do that, I think. Now, I'm going to do that since we kind of already have some scale data in here. I'm going to create a pre-composition. And that looks fine to me at iBlue comp 1, that's fine. And I'm going to animate it in here actually. So what this is, it's, if you want to consider it, this is a project or a series of layers within a layer. And I'm actually going to open this in the composition window. So I open that composition. And yeah, I don't know how to explain it other than it's like it's nested. So we're going to animate it going from small to big. And also, we'll probably rotate it in here as well. It's a little easy. So we're going to scale that down, set the first keyframe, scale it down to about here. Not too drastic. And probably open it back up to 100 by the end of the shot. So there we go. It's going to be his eye, and then why don't we add some rotation here? Same thing at the beginning, and that's R on the shortcut keys. And at the beginning, we added a keyframe, and let's have him rotate maybe 200 sometimes here, right? And then maybe back this way about 3 times by this point, kind of deal. I have these much closer. I think if I copy and paste these like that, all right. So we end up with something looking like this. Looks like he's scanning to me. And let's see how that looks back on our regular comps. And those tabs are right down here. And we're probably not going to see the rotation, but seeing the eye getting bigger is pretty cool. Alrighty, and I'm happy with that. I really am. And so let's look back and see if we needed anything else for this shot. I think there was like a lightning bolt or something. Where am I going here? Okay, so breakdown. Oh, there's a lightning bolt. And actually, I imported it here that I can look at it. And yeah, there is a lightning bolt. So we'll go over that in this tutorial, but that was the eye. I'm going to quickly do the lightning bolt. Alright, so I finished my lightning effect. This is how it's looking like right now. And ready to export. So I'm going to go to File, going to go to Export, and Add to Render Queue. And going to output it to 67, and we're going to do Final, right? And make sure best settings and lossless are checked, and we're going to hit Render. Yay. All right, so we're going to minimize this. Well, first we're going to save it. Let's go back here. Command S, save, minimize. And same thing with Mocha, Command S, save. And we're going to minimize. And we're going to go back into our track sheet. And where it says submit here for shot 67, I'm going to hit submit. Right? And now everything should be on this desktop folder I created earlier. So I'm just going to select everything and upload it to here. And that way, when someone wants to work on it in the future or make some adjustments, they have everything necessary to go back into After Effects and do that. And now I'm also going to update the track sheet. I'm going to go into 67 Final. I'm going to get a shareable link. I'm going to copy that shareable link. I'm going to go to the track sheet. I'm going to hit complete. And I'm going to press Command K to add that link in there. And now it's linked. And now, just to be nice, I'm going to keep the color formatting the same. I'm going to use the Paint Format tool. And going to do that here. And 5.7% complete. Incredible. We have a, oh my god, 95%. Oh well. Hey, slow and steady wins the race, right? So thank you for watching. Thank you for helping out if you're helping out with DeadEd, and if you're just watching this as a tutorial, thank you for checking this out. And if you want more education from someone not so experienced at After Effects, you can subscribe, or kind of see how we do things behind the scenes at Real Nation Media for the films that we're working on. And I'll also link some really neat tutorials in the description of this video or wherever this is going to be posted. Anyways, thank you for watching, and goodbye.